Okay, guys, it's Valentine's Day and Friday night, and we're here. I got
Why not?
Yeah, I got Freddie helping me, and Elias, and well, without Frederick, this would not be happening. He's been doing all the segments into the files for the water jets, and now we're just how many pieces is it?
160 for this, 65-ish.
Yeah, for that's for the rear bumper
Yeah.
alone, and the side skirts are about
185 each.
185 each. Okay, so it's a shitload of parts to keep track of. As you can see here, it's just marking everything, sorting them up, stacking them in the right order for us to glue later. What else has been happening? I've been working on the fuck me, that was hot. Yep, better use these welding gloves, but still I've been welding up all the changes in the mounts and the fixing points, and yeah, we'll be fixing some other stuff on the car as well, welding up some brackets for the Lambo hinges. So all in all, here we made some brackets for that one. Also made sure that I got some holes to let the water out that will come inside here. So that has been done on both sides. This weekend we're gonna be I'm gonna be painting it. So I just got the paint today, so I'm all ready. It will be a matter of well, gunmetal gray and some flake on it. I haven't decided what kind of flake, but yeah, it's a good work in progress. What we didn't show you the last time was this is just a mold that you see here. It will be it's a mold for a carbon fiber cover, so I can hide away like the motor for the wipers, and also the brake booster. You will only see the lid for the oil. So tried out some paints, color choices, just mixed up an orange candy. It's just as you can see, very uneven. It's just running. I just like super sprayed it, but that's not going to be the case. It will be a lime green candy, so silver metallic base, quite rough, a lot of metallic in it, and some we're gonna make some green candy. Here it's been some progress, not that much as of yet. I've let it cure quite good, and also put some Bondo on the front splitter. The splitter will be in carbon fiber, so it will be a separate piece. So door panels coming along. I did the first, actually, yeah, you didn't see that the last time. I have the custom dash. We filled up some spots that we had some low spots here, and spot there, and some extra over there, just to have something to grind on, man. But anyway, it will look where the phone is. There will be that computer I showed you last time. Here is one door panel acting as a desk at the moment, but it got the first layer of carbon fiber and just quick sanding and some clear coats. Just the first coats out of like 10, so it's still got a lot of work left. So while these guys are making yeah, foam waste, we'll get back to you in a minute when we start gluing this and we start to see a bit more of a finished product. See you soon. So the puzzle has begun. Yep. It's gonna be a lot of glue here. We're using an industrial type heating glue. I don't know what the thermal whatever. And
I think it's 280 degrees.
yeah. And we've got some issues with actually with the with the cutting. It doesn't really have the right shape. They must been moving around during the water cutting, so it's it's gonna be a lot of filler here. So we got this will just be a rough shape. A lot more shaping on this one than on the front bumper. So it was made so that we would have two
Planar faces.
yeah, and to work from, and if we put them just those two lined up 90 degrees and then we would be good to go. But now something has happened along the way. The foam have moved or something in the water jet, so it's basically this will just be the rough shape that we will have to work with. It will be a lot of filler on this one, but we got the general shape, and it's just going to be that much more work to get it done. But who's counting the hours? Not me. It's like you say, if you take the devil in the boat, you gotta row him to shore. Or whatever you say. That was a rough translation. Well, yeah, well, you gotta take the good with the bad. The Swinglish comes into effect. So, okay, we're actually gonna try and mount the actuator for the doors. We've figured out that we need a different one. This was one that I had just in the shop laying around. But we're gonna try and do an installation just to test it and see if it's even possible. It's okay. So so we get a feel for what we need. It is kind of working, but it's a lot of tension here. We need some sort of oops. Yeah, I don't have the limiter for that one. Yep. And it fell off, but still we can get it to work somehow. And we've been looking online for some different actuators and some linear things that actually has, we just found one that actually has a magnetic motor inside here, so we don't have the gearbox and we don't have this big motor. So because that will be a problem with the clearing the fender. So I don't want to modify the fender with a bulge or something. So we're just gonna, that's gonna be have to wait until Monday when we can call that company and see what they can hook us up with. But it's stable enough, the hinges, and we see also here we have some space here. The load-bearing section is here, so this is actually where it defines the stability of the hinge. So we see that here we can cut this away. We can cut out some here if it builds, and just move some material here for connecting these two, because the main load-bearing is up here. This is mainly we can add another fixing point here or something to have this not rotate. If needed, and then we could basically, if we have 3 points here, we could cut this out. We don't need anything there. They don't need to be attached. So my guess is that we can find a good actuator that's about 35 mil in diameter, and we can get this thing to work. We need like ball, like joints like this, to be able to, when the door swings out, so that with this just being fixed, it's created a lot of tension. So we have to have these type connectors both up here and down here, and we are pretty free to move this point here according to whatever actuator we can find. So probably that slim magnetic one is like this. It will look kind of just like this, and it also had an accessory that was some magnetic limiters for stroke, so we can have 2 endpoints programmed, so it just ding, goes up there, comes down there on the correct place. So yeah, I think it'll be perfect. We will have electrical doors. Woo! Ah! Oh, hi guys, I'm back. Now I've sanded down just a rough, like 80 grit paper, taking away the some of the excess epoxy in the laminates. I've got some low spots here and there and here. I'm gonna build that up with clear coat instead. So there's still a lot of imperfections. This is just a rough piece yet. It will end up being really nice and shiny. I'm just for safe measure wiping it down with some silicone remover, making sure that I get it off. Not that there's usually any silicone residues in this, but this is just the first layer. So I'm gonna go on and mix my clear coats. Nothing special. Don't need that much. I'll just I got normal premium clear coats like super clear, and it's a 2-to-1 mix ratio, so put like 250 of that. I have the hardener, that's 125 there, and about 10% thinner. It's like that much. I don't use a lot of thinner, paint thinner in. I want it quite thick when I'm spraying it, building, because I want to build thickness with it, so it doesn't run so easy. But in this stage, I'm just gonna flow coat it. I'm gonna use a small paintbrush as well to get it get it inside all these small pores that are in the laminate, so that we can get that out, because otherwise we will have lots of dimples. That takes forever. So the process now is just flow coat it and paint. Use a paintbrush and then flow it again to make it a bit smoother. So it's not that it's not difficult to say that. It's there we had something. I forgot to filter it, and somehow a little piece got in there. Yeah, but I got it out. So yeah, let's spray some. Well, might as well take the brush with me now. Of course, you should use a mask when you do this, but now since we're filming, I'm skipping the mask so you can hear what I'm saying. On the rest of the layers, I'm going to be using a mask for this. You have to stay back with the camera so we don't get a lot on the lens. Let just the vapors clear out a bit, and then you can come in and I can show you the rough structure of the carbon fiber at the moment. It's really coarse, the surface, because all of those small dimples, and now the paint, the clear coat is laying on top. So what I do is I just take the paintbrush and make sure that we get it down, and if I have some parts where I can see just a lot of air or something, I try to tap it to get the air out, because there is some surface tension going on here that makes the clear coat not go in to the deeper pockets that we have. So just be careful to check out so the brush doesn't leave any hairs in the clear coat. But it is just a rough first layer here. As you can see, it looks like total shit. Lots of uneven surfaces. This is going to be cut out, all of it. So there, I'm not going to pay any attention there. But this is all my carbon fiber parts are made out of recycle. I recycle what the companies around me can't use, like smaller bits and pieces, or some bigger pieces, perhaps with a pre-preg, have gone out of dates. They're perfectly fine, but they're working for aerospace and the automotive industry, so they can't use it with an expired dates on it, but it works just fine for me. It cures and it gives a good surface, gives me a good laminate. But I think now I've covered most of it, especially the important parts that you're going to see most. So now what I'm gonna do is, now I'm gonna flow it a lot. So you can just back out a bit. As you can see, I'm holding the gun pretty close. Closer than I would do if I were to paint clear coat on a car. That's with a pressed surface. But I sort of I want to press the clear coat into the uneven surfaces. So. I don't care that it's running or something like that. I just need to give it a really solid coat, so I can get the air, get it down in the small, in all the grooves. Because then I can also if you do it like this on a car, it will look like shit. Then you will have to sand your ass off. But like that, it's basically. You can see here, if you look really close there, you can see there are some holes that the clear coat don't want to penetrate. So just use the paintbrush and sort of work the clear coat in, and now those air bubbles will be gone. So I'll have a look around and see if there's any more like that. It's still uneven, but it's just the first layer. I will give it about 5 rounds of sanding and clear coats, and each time, between each round is about 4 or 5 layers of clear coat every time, and then sanding it down, and then 4 or 5 layers of clear coat, and so I build up all the surfaces. The low spots I have here is from the original panel ends here. I foamed up this area here and shaped it by hand, and it's yeah, it was a lower density on a few spots, some air bubbles in the foam, so when I vacuumed it compressed, so ended up with the low spots. They're about 1 millimeter, so it'll be okay to fill it up with clear. So I've done some of the worst with epoxy, with super clear epoxy. So I straightened out the worst, but just with just epoxy, because clear coat have a tendency of if you don't cure it in an oven, it will sort of crack if you put too many layers on too fast without fully cured, so it doesn't breathe. It needs to breathe out properly. So in about 10 minutes I'm gonna put the last deciliter of clear on top, and after that I'm gonna put it into the oven, let it sit until tomorrow at like I don't know, 40 degrees Celsius, so that it doesn't cure too fast either. I want it to breathe. It will breathe out here for a few hours maybe, and then put it in the oven. since they're so thick layer. So that's at least step one. Why I don't sand it down so much, I only have a 600 gram carbon fiber here per square meter, so I can't sand it down too hard, because then, especially on edges and so on, it's easy to sand through, and so you sand through the carbon fiber, and then you have to repair it, and I don't want to do that. So it's better to build it up with clear. Just take away the excess on the surface with epoxy, the epoxy that's left from the laminate. So I'll get back to this one later. See ya.
What's up?
We are going to see what Johan is up to. I think he's laying down some carbon fibers on the door panels.
On the door panels. Hello!
Hi guys! So what am I doing? I am putting some carbon fiber on just a hand lamination on one of the door panels. I'm using carbon fiber and epoxy, and one important thing about epoxy are these, because it's toxic, so it's like cancerous and all kinds of bad. So always make sure to use glasses and gloves when you're working with epoxy. So it's like never ever cheat on that one. Always use gloves.
And the right kind of gloves.
Any kind that doesn't get the epoxy on your skin is good enough, but preferably latex or something. Okay, so how do we do it? We just, like I said, for that one, we're using like leftovers, cut-offs, and so on. So I will always get a few intersections where I have to. What do you call it? Yeah, you understand. I have to use several pieces. I can't make it all in one fancy piece, but at least it's carbon fiber. So first of all, I just take the brush and before I lay on the carbon fiber, just paint some epoxy on it, that it makes it easier to wet through. And then I'm just working till I get the air out, until I get the whole carbon fiber drenched in epoxy. So it's better to press down than to use the brush too much, because you might start sliding the fibers in here where we have a lot of corners. You'll just move and it will, if I pull here, it will lift here. So it's better to just gently tap it until it gets properly soaked, and just light strokes with a brush if you brush it, to smoothen out some excess epoxy. So basically it's just a tedious process, but it's well worth it in the end, because it looks awesome once you get the here I didn't put, so I just you can be, I'm pretty generous with it. It just makes it easier to get the fibers all wet. I don't have to work as much to get the air out, get proper adhesion. The tricky parts with carbon fiber are the junctions of different angles. It's quite stiff to work with, and with pre-preg it's almost impossible to shape. You can use the vacuum to help you pull it, but it's a pair of scissors that you don't have to use that's expendable. Could be good to make some cuts here and there. I'll gently stretch it. And work it in. And I'm just fairly happy with that corner. Just gently trying to get the stick properly and get the air out. So it's just not that difficult. Just make sure to use gloves, and you can get carbon fiber and epoxy basically anywhere. So here we have for the screw later on. So that's all for now. Cameraman has to get back to gluing the front end, the rear end.
Hello.
Hi. I've been standing here talking for a while, and he just found out that he hadn't pressed record on the camera. But anyway, where we are, what are we doing? We are going to put some carbon fiber pre-preg on the front splitter. I've prepped it, and we decided today, there's a lot of issues with the water jet cutting. Something is off in some way, so we have to do a lot of compensations and find middle grounds. It's going to be a lot of manual shaping, and not as good as we hoped. It will be even more, even though we split it in a better direction. The rear bumper, we're still going to end up with more work than what we had on the front bumper. So, but right now I'm working on the front splitter. That will be a separate piece, and I will make that out of carbon fiber pre-preg. So I just taken some out of the freezer and prepared some pieces here. But I'm going to use this as a positive mold, not a negative, because we need to make adjustments, and it's easier. I don't want to waste the time and money making a mold, making this into a plug, making a mold, and then doing the final piece in it to find out that, oh, it doesn't fit the car. We need to trim here, we need to change the angles there to get the good fitment against the body. So we decided that we're going to use this as the mold, also for the front bumper and the rear bumper. And then, if we need to make some changes, we can do that. It's easier to fit it and check so that it's all good before taking the cost and the time-consuming work to make good molds. So that's why I'm just gonna use this. Have some release film here that I'm gonna cover it. I'm gonna spray it so that it sticks. I'm gonna spray it with some spray glue that I'm gonna get. Just a minute. Yep. So basically just spraying this one to get this release film to stick to the splitter, so that I can shape the pre-preg around it. And then we're gonna put it in a bag and bag it. It was not much left in this canister, but hopefully it will be enough. So this is just a thin piece of just get it half decent. It's not so important. Any wrinkles will never be seen anyway, but just can avoid the worst ones. Like this. So this way I don't have to use wax or anything like that to get this out of get the finished parts out. So I can just wrap it like this and put some tape on the back. So that it's not in the way. If I got some tape. This is perhaps not the way the professionals do it, but it's the way I do it. That's the bit why it's called ADHD garage work. I work kind of fast and don't choose all the complicated fancy solutions, but just rather just get it done. It will. It's quite cost efficient. I use. I get from the carbon fiber company. I'm in their shop now. They're in the same building as my own shop, and we work a lot together. So they give me all the spare material. Well, this is not exactly spare material, but I still got it. It had expired date on it with a few months, so they couldn't use it for the automotive industry. So let's just get the pre-preg has two protective plastic like this, and it's carbon fiber pre-preg is actually for those who never used it, or it's, as you can see, it's quite sticky, so it's already prepped with heat sensitive epoxy. Or perhaps there's so you have to store it in the freezer to be able to, otherwise it will cure. It was just barely enough there. So what I do, I just work it. Of course, it's epoxy. I forgot the gloves. Always wear gloves with epoxy. It's still pretty cold, so it's not that. I didn't get very much on my hands, but. As you can see, it's quite stiff since it's already filled with epoxy and still a bit cold. It's not maybe now getting soon up to room temperature, but not yet. It is actually blessing to be able to use their facilities and just get the air out. It will go away once we apply vacuum to it, and then it will bake overnight in the oven. So I'll just take the cutter. Give me my cutter back. Yeah. Like someone said in a Fast and the Furious movie. I'll take my cutter back. These pieces here I put back in the freezer and used them for parts, smaller parts. So now I just put on the next layer. And here is the sticky part. It is actually now it's getting closer and closer to room temperature, and it's starting to stick together a bit much. So basically you don't have that many chances getting it right. You can use the back of the scissors to sort of mild force, just because the gloves will break if you try it with just the gloves. You can also use a roll, a plastic roll, and roll it on. Once we put vacuum on this and put it in the oven, we the epoxy will become it will be turning to liquid form, so then it will also not be as stiff, and the vacuum can pull it close to the edges and so on. But it's still good to be fairly good, because carbon fiber is pretty stiff. And you don't want too much extra or too much tension over edges, because it will basically be almost impossible to get it. It will and once I get this into the freezer, it will be, if I just lay them flat on top of each other, they will not stick. It will not become one mass. Sort of, you can just crack them apart. But right now they're kind of sticky. So I can take some of this. Yeah, then it will not be a hassle in the freezer. So I will use 600 gram per square meter is this. So it's quite thick, but I want the splitter to be quite stiff, and also for the purpose of it's gonna act like a mold later. I will want it to oh yeah, one was a little bit shorter than the others. So then, since I have the stitching on that side, I will put this one here. Because we're not going to be, the splitter won't be going all the way in. We will cut out because we will have some as you might see, it's a bit warped because when we use the polyester filler on this side and not on the other, it's sort of bent the shape of the foam. But I can fix that when when I bake it. I'm just gonna put some spacers here and push it down after I've sealed the bag, and then once it's cured, it will stay in that shape. So that's the beauty of this process. I can adjust the shape. Also, what a lot of people don't know is that you buy body kits, they say that it should be perfect fitment, and once when you get them and start installing them, it's like total shit. Nothing is accurate. It's too wide and so on. But what most companies don't do with a fiberglass product is they don't post-cure them. All polyesters and epoxy and so on needs to be cured in the oven, not just through the chemical process, because the chemical process isn't really finished until you up the heat on it. So when you store it, they perhaps have it stored in stock, or in some of the web shops might have them in stock, and when you order it, you get a part that's been hanging not fully cured, and when it's hanging or standing, it will flatten out. So what you can do is you can put it in a heated space at like 80 degrees Celsius, and you can just apply some pressure in the ends, and put something in the middle and apply some pressure and let it stay for 80 degrees overnight, and then slowly let it cool down. You will then have I just put out here on the sides where I know I will have it. In the middle it will be cut out. You see, I don't always find it necessary. I think it's gives it a bit more life. I could perhaps try and adjust the pattern, but sometimes I actually like my carbon fiber parts to like this will be a little bit different pattern there on this small part. It will be the same here almost, but it gives a little bit more life to it, I think. So I'm not really, it shows that it's a real thing and not just some carbon fiber plastic tape that you put on. This is first step of the process. Now I'm going to put it into a vacuum bag, but I need to prep for that, so we'll be right back. Yeah, we're back. And what have I done? Well, while he was moving all the footage from the card, I was preparing the vacuum bag. We use some sticky, we call it dog meat, but it's really sticky. And when you're working with vacuum, it must be really clean, and it has to be airtight. Vacuum pulls through any small gap, so you have to be really careful when you place this out, so you don't get any creases in the film. But it's really sticky, so I've prepared it, and also I put a thin layer of well, it's a flow coat sort of thingy. It will absorb, it will allow the air to travel out of the carbon fiber, and also the excess epoxy will fill into this one. So once we take it out of the oven, when it's cured, I just pull this off, and you have basically all the excess epoxy in this one. Pull it off, and it's much faster to sand. So and since it's now room temperature, it's really sticky, so it sticks really good to it. So I just try to get as few creases as possible on it. And also we need something to pull the air out. And what I've done is we take some dog meat on this tube, and I'll just split here, and I'll stick it underneath where I will have no, and I'll just lay it down here and push it down like that. So what I'm gonna do is just take this one off, and make sure that you have enough space on each side so that it can so it doesn't stretch too much. So I'll just make a quick check so that this, yep. So always have a little extra over the center with this sticky sealant. Well, I'm gonna continue calling it dog meat just for it probably has a totally different name, but that's the name that they use, these guys who are letting me use their equipment. We are 3 companies in this building, and it's fantastic environment because it's all access. No doors are locked. We borrow stuff and from each other, and just leave it like you found it, and it's mostly me who are borrowing from them, so for me it's fantastic. Anyway, I do the sides first. Make sure that I have enough to go over here while I do. So there I will make the fold and make sure that it's tracking, so I get a airtight seal there. This is the most important part when you're working with vacuum. It's to be very thorough when you're doing this, so that it's totally free from any you might have some small straws from the carbon fiber, because this is a process you can use with injection as well, vacuum injection. So it's the same process. It's just that then you will have an inlet here with the epoxy, and the vacuum will pull it through. So then you have some more flow channels and stuff that you. Well, we can do that. We will probably do that at one episode. But for now, I want to finish this part. And it's yeah, it's fun once you see it heat up, and you see that it starts to get wet, and always fun when you see it starts getting wet, and fitting perfectly around either the mold or whatever. And here I have to be careful not to lose the lines, because then you will sort of run out of plastic film. I put it a little bit too close to the edge. It's better to leave like 5 centimeters or something, or like 2 inches of this. Press that one down and make sure that you work this one tight. Well, I'm not sure if you need to. Well, there will be one important thing left that I want to show you on this for preparing the bag. It is at the end, you see, we will have some extra bag. You never manage to slide it perfectly flat all around, so you will end up with some extra, and then you just take another piece of this dog meat. You check where it lines up. You take a piece like this, and you sort of and there I had a crease. This is actually the most difficult part of this process, if you ask me, because you will probably end up doing like I did there and miss the target. And as you can see, it's really sticky. Usually goes better than this, but sometimes you just it's not my night, obviously. Now I think I got it. Close enough. At least I think. Now I just have to get the protection film off, and since I had to work it a couple of times, it's not my best friend at the moment. Make sure just to really work it in there. But it looks like we might have something there. I can just stretch it and then rework it. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have anything. Well, there are creases, but there are no air gaps. It's just all black. So once you worked it through it, this should be okay. Just all the junctions, make sure to work the junctions, and here at the vents. Now I think we're good to go. Just double check, and once this gets heated also, it becomes more flexible, so you can just go and double check and just push it. So now what's left to do is that I'm going to put this on a trolley and take it over to the oven and start pulling vacuum, so I'll see you in a bit. Yeah, now we're at the oven, so I'll just hook it up. We have a big vacuum machine, and I'll just hook this one together, and I'll seal it with
Dog meat.
yeah, I don't know why it's called dog meat. I have no idea, but that's what they call it. And I'll just put some layers of this, and then if you press play on the green button.
This one?
Yep.
There we go.
It is it should start to pull vacuum pretty soon. So just make sure that I have enough space here. And let's see if it's opened up. Nope. Now you can see you will be able to see quite fast. You see already the bag is starting to pull. I try to keep the bag as flat as possible on the surface that I want to look good. Of course, this is a quite smooth shape, so it's not a problem. It's quite easy. Just make sure that there is enough room. And if you see any problem areas, you can always just back off the vacuum and start over again. If you see that something is offline. But here I'd say that I have yeah, it's all nice and smooth. And like I said earlier, we had some difficulties with with this one not being 100% straight. So I will just clamp it down on this side here. So I will clamp it down on the sides. However, I will put something in between. And I happen to have some excess foam because I don't want to damage the bag. You have to be really careful not damaging the bag. But here I can just clamp it down. And I put a spacer in between here that will allow me to get the desired shape without this one bending. I just prepped a board, like a wooden board. So I'll just so I got the spacer in between here so it's straight, and now I straighten out the wings in the end. And I think the shape now, when you see it more in one solid color, I think the shape looks fantastic. And now we're just gonna get this in the oven and let it bake for I don't know, 6-7 hours or until tomorrow morning at 60 degrees. I can go up a little bit higher, but with the foam and since we used like melting glue with the glue gun, I don't want to go too high so that it separates. I don't know, never tried this one before, so in. Just need to be a little bit careful with this vacuum line. Fitting quite nicely. What I do now, I check for leaks. I have a gauge here. It's should be going down. I'm not pulling that hard of a vacuum because yeah, we're not using the full power on this one. It's just 60%, so I can increase and increase. But since we're using foam and you see immediately it starts going down. So this is really tight. So I'll back off a little bit. I don't need to we're pulling about 70 kilopascal on it, so it's enough. So at 300 it's all good. For vacuum injection you need more, you need lower, but since we have the foam and everything, no need for me to go any lower. So that was basically it for how I use pre-preg when I work on my cars. So see you soon with some more. Yeah, hi. Now I've taken this one out of the oven. I baked it overnight since yesterday on 60 degrees Celsius, and this morning I upped it to 80 and let it sit for 4 hours, and now it's been cooling off for a few hours under tension. I had these so it wouldn't warp, so these vices. So time to see, as you can see, it's fully wet through this this flow coats that we can, hopefully, it's a bitch getting off, but eventually I'll get it. Son of a bitch to get off, but like this. Otherwise I would end up with all the creases from the vacuum film, because that one always wrinkles. Otherwise I would have lots of excess epoxy in lots of creases. But now it's just, yeah, it would look like this where it didn't cover. So you see here it's a much better surface, a lot easier to sand down. So yeah, get some. So it looks nice and smooth. I've got some cutting to do, and I think it actually will come off from this one. We should be able to. Well, we spray glued it, so it might not come off that easy, but yeah, it's coming off. I just need to get it off in the edges, and I will have my splitter. I will probably need some tools for that. Perhaps the knife I can ease up a little bit. Yeah, it's coming. This alone won't be stiff enough. I will make a second at the bottom of it. We will get the finished piece out eventually. So here we have almost have the splitter. Ah, it's double warped here. Oh, warped, double. It's tangled in. Just some. When I clean cut it, it will. I will get this one off. Like this. We have a stiff 2mm carbon fiber splitter. I just need to cut the edges here and trim it, and I'm gonna put some inserts in here so I can screw it on, and put a laminate here, a layer of foam, and put a laminate over here to make it even stiffer when it's at high speeds. But it's quite stiff in itself, but it doesn't weigh much compared to, it almost sails down compared to the stiffness. So this is how you can make your own splitter. It will require, you know, same process as on the other parts that I'm making, but here it will be quite fast to get the good finish. And this is actually, you can shape it with foam or anything. And since we wrap it in this plastic, it doesn't have to be resistant to the chemicals in the epoxy or polyester, whatever you use. If you're going to use carbon fiber, you can't use polyester. You need to use vinyl ester instead, if you don't have access to epoxy. But and also remember that epoxy itself is not UV resistant, so you need to add a protective layer if you make a proper mold and go through that process and want a perfect finish from the start. You still need to clear coat it Otherwise the epoxy will get yellow with time. So yeah, what else have we done? We've I'm struggling a little bit with, after widening the rear quarter. One side I got perfect door gaps, and on the other side it was too tight at the bottom and way too big at the top. So I'm actually gonna weld up this now. Now I got an even door gap here all the way down here. I had to cut up here and push it down and push it back here, because here it was sitting super jammed. It was touching the door in this. Now I actually tacked it up in a few places, so I would hold this one into place when I'm welding it. So got a little dent here that I'm gonna need to smoothen out from the back, because yeah, it wouldn't quite work with me. So but I can pull this one out, so no problem. So it's gonna be done tonight, and after I'm done with that, I'm gonna paint the inside of the car, so we can start doing the cables tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the harness is gonna be starting tomorrow. So we're full on, and it's been a busy weekend, and now we're gonna clean up the shop and see, so that we can start the normal business that we do, that I do during the day here. Right now on Sunday night it's total chaos, so we got a few hours of cleaning after this busy weekend. Me, Fredrik and Elias have been working our asses off, and it's coming out good. So cheers for now, and if you like this, subscribe and follow, and see you soon. Bye.